Hey everyone, One Big Boss here. As you can tell from the title of the video that you just clicked on, this is a Resident Evil Vendetta review. Now, the funny thing of it is, I just saw the movie. This is the first Resident Evil, CGI Resident Evil movie that I've seen in theaters, and I wasn't going to miss this up. A lot of my friends I know couldn't make it, others had other things to do, so I understand, but I was not going to miss this opportunity because the CGI movies to me have been very great, very unique, and also true to the games because they're set in the same universe as the games. So I, for one, just had to love so much about each installment, and to me, they got better as time went on. I know the first one got a little, hack and crap from a lot of people, and the second one was really good. And this one, honestly, after seeing it, the only thing I can really say is they got to make another one. They have to go for number 4. So, pretty much what I can tell you right now without spoiling anything, this movie is worth going to see. Unfortunately, it was a one-night only thing, so that is kind of a bummer, but it is available on iTunes already, so you can go and download it, and for any Resident Evil fan, you gotta see this movie. That's without spoiling anything right now, that's what I gotta say. So after this, it's spoiler territory, so turn this off. But either way, so my buddies and I over at the Residents of Evil podcast, we had done a interview with Erin Cahill, who is the new voice actress for Rebecca Chambers in Resident Evil. And honestly, she said that this was going to be something that the fans were really going to enjoy. And I got to agree with her. There was a lot there. There was some throwbacks to the old games and everything like that. You know, kind of, what was it, one of the parts where Rebecca first sees the first zombie and it's like eaten and it just turns around and turns over its shoulder. Like the first Resident Evil game, you know, that epic thing where the zombie eating Kenneth and everything, it's the first zombie you actually see. It was done very well, in that respect. There were, now, the mansion that Chris and his team go into at the beginning of the movie, very heavily reminiscent of what the Spencer estate kind of looked like back in the day and during the remake. Peeling wallpapers, like things that were just, like, left, untouched and, like, kind of, like, let fall to shit and everything. Very good. It was very well done. The horror aspect was done very well, especially in the mansion part, because for me, I was like, okay, I'm like legit scared. This is a legit thing. I'm enjoying this. This is Resident Evil. Let's see so moving on to next. So the story, pretty much the story. I believe this takes place after Resident Evil 6 or before 6, and you've got Chris Redfield, Rebecca Chambers, and Leon Kennedy teaming up to fight Glenn Arias, who is the big baddie of the series. Now, unfortunately, the plot is very much the same as the first one, and kind of like the second one. Somebody lost something, they wanted to achieve power in order to bring revenge against those who wronged them type deal. It's a basic story, there ain't too much to it. But it's done better than the first two. You kind of get more feels from it, the way that they go about explaining Glenn's motives, his psyche, where he's at mentally. That was done pretty well, and the guy portraying him and acting as him did very well too. I think that he was probably the best CGI villain we've gotten so far. So yeah, let's see what else is there to talk about. So right off the bat, Rebecca was written really well and performed very well by Erin Cahill, who both did the motion capture and the voice for her. So Erin, you did a fantastic job. I know fans are gonna love the fact that you brought justice to this character who hadn't been seen in a video game in a very, very long time. It's a fan favorite, so I'm glad they decided to bring her back for this, and she fits well. She fits very well into this. She does get captured at one point during the movie, so she does play kind of the damsel in distress. But it's something that's done really well, and she holds her own when she's one-on-one with Glenn Arias when she's explaining everything. You can tell she's not afraid of him, really. And it just shows you how much Rebecca has grown up with the series. We see her from Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 0. We see how she grew from those two games, and this movie kind of, like, shows what she's like, almost 20 years later in the story's timeline. So it's done really well. Chris was handled really well. I'm really, really bummed out that Roger Craig Smith was not chosen to reprise his role as Chris, which is strange because in Resident Evil 7 he's not voicing Chris, and in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite he's voicing Chris. So very strange. Maybe it was something the recording was done long before they weren't going to give him the role again. Either way, though, the guy, I believe his name is Kevin Dorman, he did a pretty good job as Chris. I got to admit, it's hard to see somebody replace another actor for a role that has been done so well and the character has changed, because Chris has changed a lot over the years, as we all know. So to see him Roger Craig Smith not return was kind of a bummer, but like I said, Kevin Dorman does extremely well with this role as Chris, and if he continues the role, I support it 100% because honestly, he did a really good job. The acting for Chris was pretty good. He's still kind of the standoffish, stoic guy, but he's kind when he needs to be. You can see that soft side of him that's still there even after all these years of fighting. So right there, perfect. Leon was pretty dark in this one, and not like he was in the first the Degeneration movie where he was just kind of a dick. No, in this one he's depressed. He's drinking heavily, I mean, even more than before. It was kind of funny, like how they take his drink away from him, and he's just like, whatever, takes out a flask and that part was great. I love that. But he also, he's changed. The whole stopping biohazards and all these people. I mean, he's got a reason for why he's drinking. His team got sold out in DC when there was an explosion and everything. So unfortunately, he's kind of feeling the effect of this whole terrorist war and trying to stop everything. And the reason why they go to him is because they bring up Las Plagas. And Las Plagas is worked into this movie a little bit, but not too much. They do mention it a few times because they have to go to Leon because he's the expert. But they really don't use his expertise for much from what I've noticed in the film. So it's kind of weird. Either way, Glenn Arias controls the new creatures. They do the whole Walking Dead thing where the virus is in everybody somehow. Then they tell you that it's because of it was just distributed during the in water and all throughout New York City. But it was really good. So the story pretty much is they have to find him and stop him. Simple, basic plot, but what leads up to it and everything towards the final battle, it's really interesting. We got to talk about it right now. We got to talk about the whole gung fu John Wick style of the hallway scene. That was done extremely well, and I'm sure that the team had a blast doing that motion capture work for it. I mean, Jason Font, he's a pretty fast guy himself. He's the one who did the motion capture for Leon in this movie. So I've seen the guy. If you watch Power Rangers or any other things that he's done, or like the motion capture work, he's fast. He knows what he's doing. The guy's good. Ruben Langdon, who you also know has motion captured Chris many times over the course of Resident Evil, and he's also a suit actor from Power Rangers, stunt coordinator, and he's also the voice actor and motion capture artist for Dante from Devil May Cry. And that guy's on fire with everything he does. He is so quick and agile, and oh my god, he is fast, man. And he's precise. His moves are flashy and awesome. It's great. He's a great motion capture artist, great stunt coordinator, choreographer. The guy knows what he's doing. So that scene is even more epic when you get to see it on the big screen, because you see a little bit more of Leon's and you see a lot more of Chris's, which is great. I really enjoyed that part. I thought that was done extremely well, and just the way it works in CGI, it just shows you where we've come, how far we've come in motion capture over the years. It was something really incredible, and again, seeing it on the big screen was just amazing. Pretty much the rest of the characters in the movie, they're all like cannon fodder. They're red shirts. It's true. Pretty much like everybody that you meet that's not the three main characters, they end up dead or wounded. Chris's new team that he gets when he recruits Rebecca and everything like that, they oh god, they weren't that entertaining, honestly. One guy got his neck ripped off by the dogs, though, and you could see the head fall off and everything. Looked like they censored it, but you know what? Whatever. It was still pretty epic. I mean, the guy deserved to die. Like, the van's shaking and stuff like that, and he's moving towards it, and it's like, literally just blow the fucking thing up. But that's the thing we got to talk about in this movie. Shit does get blown up, like, a lot, and it's really funny how sometimes it works, because as we all saw when Leon is getting chased by the dogs on the highway, because for whatever reason the Cerebuses now are a hell of a lot faster now, and you can't hit those things. I mean, hell, it was hard to hit them back in the old days of Resident Evil anyway, when you play the old games, but, in this one, it just seems like they knew when you were going to shoot. So it was pretty amazing at that point. So Leon leads them away, and as we all saw, Leon on the freeway pretty much accidentally destroys he shoots one of the dogs, which causes a huge car explosion behind him, and it's just like, I think he just killed some people. And to me, like, that part was really interesting. I really did enjoy that. Honestly, I really did enjoy the scene, that like mindless little destruction, because I'm just like, come on, really? I know collateral damage in situations like that, but it is pretty funny. And there's another part in the movie towards the end where one of the characters on Redfield's team, it's a lady. I think she's got a sniper rifle. You think, turns out it's a fucking rail cannon or a rail gun, and she uses that to shoot the big baddie during the transformation stage. She only like clips his shoulders and takes out fucking like 3 to 4 buildings, and I'm just like, you just wasted fucking, like, were there anybody in there? Like, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, that's a bad shot. You're on the BSAA. You can't have a bad shot like that. But like I said, the things leading up, the stunt work, the way the movie is paced is actually done very well, and I enjoyed that because I never felt that things were being drowned out, and I felt that we were getting a lot from the characters. Sometimes I felt that the characters were, when they spoke, it was kind of forced, or they could have just used more retakes, and I'm sure they probably did multiple retakes with these, because that's what you do when you don't just like one shot at, like Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood doesn't use storyboards, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't even, I think it's like kind of like one of those one-shot deals. You better know it, and that's it kind of deal. Which makes sense for Clint Eastwood. But, I just really thought that the performance was good when it was good, but sometimes it got a little off. And then at one point, I realized that they didn't give Rebecca a gun, because her blood was kind of the key to, like, what was, like, that could cure the virus, and then what ended up speeding up the virus later on. And they didn't give her a gun. Granted, some blonde girl who looks like she belongs in Ninja Gaiden or the Dead or Alive games came and kidnapped her. And she was, I guess, a friend or something of Glenn Arias during the wedding, because you see the wedding portrait that they had taken, so when she was able to recover. And she didn't really do anything. She had one red eye. She had like a black scar under the other. Nothing really with her that seemed to indicate anything, other than the fact that she may have been able to control the zombies. Which, honestly, like, they said that they could control them, and the bioweapons and stuff, and they didn't really utilize that much, I know I'm nitpicking this but it's just a small movie. But regardless, at the end, that kind of just drove me a little nuts, but still, minor detail. Not that big of a deal, very minor. But yeah, no, what was next? The final battle when, like, Chris ends up saving Rebecca, but she's infected with the new virus, and she's going to be changing soon. This kind of puts her out of commission for the rest of the friggin' movie, pretty much. And again, I kind of feel like it was a missed opportunity, but again, we find out why she switched from BSAA, like, soldier to scientist type deal in the movie, which was neat. I'm glad that we got a little closure with that. That was kind of cool. But yeah, and then the final battle with Chris versus Glenn. I'm going to say it right now. Chris Redfield needs to learn how to fight, and he needs to go back and punch some fucking boulders, because his arms were like, well, they weren't like massive like they used to be, but now they're like small and thin. I'm just like, what the hell happened, man? Where are the guns? Because that's what made Resident Evil 5 so obscure at times, was the fact that Chris Redfield bulked up so much. But then again, like, when, he fought Wesker with Jill, he was like punching him like repeatedly, and it wasn't doing anything. So you can understand why he beefed up. But in this movie, and especially in Resident Evil 6, he beefed down. And that's the thing, man. Chris got his ass kicked throughout this whole fucking movie when the 2 times he fought Glenn Arias. How he killed him, though, was great. Like, he just pretty much smashes Chris's face, like, right in with a direct punch. Chris's head just smashes into the glass behind the glass floor that they're on, and Chris just flips him right down the hole, and you just watch the body fall, and it's like a Wile E. Coyote moment. And it's just like kind of deal. That's really what it was. And the big nemesis type creature, which is pretty much what I called him, I thought, well, after he got done beating the crap out of Chris, and Chris easily destroyed him with a fire grenade. Thankfully, he came back, and he merged with Glenn Arias, and Glenn was able to take over, and he had all these, like, regenerative monster abilities. They did that kind of deal. that was all right. You know, that battle was pretty cool because like Chris was getting grabbed and getting squeezed to death. Leon was getting squeezed to death and everything. You know, they both took turns kicking the like shooting the monster. Leon got a Desert Eagle handgun out of nowhere, and I'm like, that's fucking badass because he just comes up the like, you know, up the elevator and everything like that, and the gun's actually doing damage to Glenn too in his monster form, which was great. The movie ends on a pretty good note. You don't really feel dissatisfaction, and then that blonde girl that I mentioned earlier, who is part of like Glenn's group, she survived. At one point, she gets like blown, like looks like she died, but she comes back at the end, and she's looking at I think it was her dad that was the monster. I think that's what she said earlier. It was kind of hard to hear. But she's looking at his mask that dropped on the floor after he transformed, and she just like looks up, and you can see that her eye is red. So I'm figuring, much like how Buddy was, or no, not was it or whatever the main guy was that could control the lickers in the second movie, she was the same. She could control the monsters because she had the red eye and everything. Doesn't explain how she survived the bombing. So yeah. But like the few things they had wrong with it, that was kind of one of them. It's like, well, how did this girl survive the bombing? Like, they didn't even show her. They just showed Glenn, and he survived somehow. Like, everything dropped right on top of him as well. His wife was right next to him at their wedding, and all that survived was her hand. But he was totally fine. And apparently he found ways to bring his loved ones back to life and kept them in coffins, which I guess was alright. There was nothing really done with that either. Like I said, and the mindless destruction that kind of came with a lot of the things that was happening was just like, alright, I'll let it slide, but I'm just like, what? Again, there are some minor complaints about this movie, but they don't make it a bad movie whatsoever. In fact, this is probably my favorite Resident Evil CGI movie that they've done so far. Honestly, I really pray for another one because the original one first came out in like, what? Yeah, 2007, it was 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. It took 5 years before the next one came out in 2012 or 2013, I think. I think it was. And obviously now, you know, this new one came out couple years later, and it was great. Like I said, despite the small problems that I have with it and kind of like the what the fuck moments is happening here, you just explained to that guy you gotta shoot these guys, you've been doing this for so long, everything, you don't even know these guys, now you feel sad, you're just watching this guy transform, like what the fuck is wrong with you? It does good. It hits where it needs to hit, it does what it's supposed to do, and it makes Resident Evil fans happy. At least I hope it does, because I know I'm very fucking happy. Like I said, Erin Cahill was right when we did the podcast with her. It's a great film for Resident Evil fans of the video games. You can just literally tell how much work went into making this in terms of the stunt coordination, which I talked about earlier, in the motion capture, to the editing and the graphics and everything. I mean, if you put this side by side with like Resident Evil Degeneration and Damnation, you can clearly see the difference already. And I really hope for the next film that they focus it on maybe like Chris and have Jill come back or something. Maybe we gotta let the Resident Evil 7 play out in its DLC. It's not another hero thing. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But I would like to see a fourth CGI film with Jill in it. I think that'd be great. Have Barry Burton come back as well. Something to that magnitude would be fantastic. But like I said, for Resident Evil fans, this film is a must. For others who don't really know Resident Evil that well, it might be a little bit hard to follow, but it's a decent action and horror mix and everything, and it's a fun little movie to just go and watch. So I recommend that when this movie comes out, if you can find it on Redbox, rent it. And if you're a Resident Evil fan, go own it now. Or, you know, wait till the Blu-ray and all that stuff comes out and get the cool steel box, which apparently you get a steel box with it at one point, which I think is pretty cool. Either way, let me know if you've seen the movie. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, because I'd really like to discuss more of this movie with other people, because this movie was just really freaking awesome. And like I said, everybody involved in it, thank you for doing what you've done. The actors, the directors, everybody. This movie was literally what Resident Evil fans needed after those live-action Resident Evil movies finally ended. Especially that last one that came out, the one with the super edit cuts and everything. Ugh. Either way, thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe because it's free, and in this day and age, free's a damn good thing. As always, everybody, I'm One Big Boss. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.